Haaland is the greatest striker I've ever seen in the Premier League. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm not being reactionary. In my lifetime, I haven't seen a better striker in the Premier League than Erling Haaland. In terms of a pure gunman, he's the best. And I don't actually think there's a close second. And he might go down as the greatest goalscorer I'll ever see in my life. Numerically, statistically, how complete he is as a striker, it's absurd. And I don't think we're really fathoming what he's doing. We're not really comprehending his brilliance and his excellence. And it's genuinely scary. It's scary. He's an omnipotent force. He's a juggernaut of a footballer. And it gets to the point where I'm sort of weighing it up. Because for a long time I was like, I don't really want to say Haaland's the best I've seen. Because I want to show respect to all the other great strikers I've seen in the league. The Agueros, the Harry Kanes, all those players that were so good for so long. Even Suarez at his peak. But Haaland is wiping the floor with all of these guys, in my opinion. And he's just getting started. This is just the beginning we've seen of Erling Haaland. How long has he been in the league for? 3 years? This is his fourth season? 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. This is his fourth season in the league. And he's just, season upon season, game upon game, he's proven why he's the best. And he's just causing so much fear to opponents and fear to ex-Premier League strikers, especially Alan Shearer, who we're going to talk about in a second. It's getting ludicrous. It really is. He is the best goalscorer in the world right now. He's the most omnipotent striker, the most inevitable. That's probably the best adjective I can really use to describe Erling Haaland, striker in the world. But as always, let me know in the comments what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're so close to 10k subs. Like the video if you enjoyed. Share it to some friends. And obviously, you guys know me. I'm a Juventus fan. I love the Serie A. But I love football in general. Spoke about La Liga last weekend. I love the Premier League. I always watch the Prem. So I want to start making more Prem content as well. I'm going to try to do a bit of everything. So this is Prem content. This is Erling Haaland. And I don't really have like somewhere, I don't know, a linear structure to this video because I just watched the City game. I saw Erling Haaland. I was like, I want to talk about this guy because I've been a massive fan of Erling Haaland ever since 433 posted that he scored like 10 goals in a game. I was just fascinated at that point. I was like, who is this guy? Like, is he serious? Like, then I started watching tapes. I started watching him when he was at Salzburg. And then obviously he went to Dortmund. And I was like, wow, this guy here is going right to the very top of football. Like everyone sort of did. I didn't predict his come up by any stretch of imagination. But he just hooked me. Because he was an unusual kind of striker, in my opinion. He wasn't like a technical phenomenon. And when I started watching football, I would say the striker game sort of changed a lot. I think Haaland is like a 90s striker, you know, how they used to be. But when I was growing up, it was like they were all technical. They were good with their feet. They were good at dribbling. They were a threat. More so, I actually want to say like a lot of them, some of their best traits came from outside of the box rather than inside the box in terms of the positioning, the intelligence, the movement. There were very few strikers, I would say, that were creme de la creme in terms of movement and positional awareness in the box. Some had that attribute, some didn't. Like a Kun Aguero, for example, was a ruthless dribbler and a ruthless finisher, but inside the box and outside of the box. Haaland is he's more of a traditional nine, I want to say, but a freak of an athlete. I pose this question because what he did in the Bundesliga, 62 goals, 19 assists in 67 games, is fake. What he's doing in the Champions League, 53 goals in 51 games, plus 5 assists. He scored more goals than matches played in the Champions League. The peak competition for club football. That's the highest standard. There's nothing above when it comes to club football. But the Premier League, 96 goals in 106 games. What? That's a goal return. That's an average of 0.9 goals a game. Alan Shearer scored 260 Premier League goals in, I want to say, 448 games, 400 plus games. His goal to game ratio was around 0.46, 0.47, I want to say. Haaland is, if he stays in the league for another, well, he needs to stay for quite a while because it's just league goals. So he's done 106 in this is his fourth season. At the end of his fourth season, he'll probably have like I don't even know. I'm trying to predict how many goals he's going to score in the league by the end of the season. Maybe 120. Around the 120 mark, I think he could potentially hit, maybe slightly under. He'll need to do that for another 4 years minimum. So he'd probably need to spend an extra 4 or 5 years in the league, which he could easily do. Because I don't think he'll stay at City his whole career. I see him at a Barcelona or a Madrid, to be honest, because there's always a step up when it comes to big clubs, and then there's the two best of the best. But I think he'll break the record. I think he'll stay here for another 4 years unless something crazy happens with City and the 115 charges. But at this rate, he's going to wipe the floor of Shearer's record, 100%. It'd be scary to actually think how many goals he'd score if he only plays in the Premier League throughout his whole career. It'd be absurd. But numerically, he's the best I've seen, by a mile. Look at this today. 26 goals for club and country already. It's the start of November, boys. And he scored 26 goals. Top strikers, like growing up, 26 goals in total was a good number by the end of the season. After 9 months of playing football, 26 was a great number. Because you had Messi and Ronaldo who were bagging like 60, guaranteed. Then there was a big jump to the rest, and some guys were hitting in the 40s, but it was rare. Some big 30s. 30 was like big time. If you hit 30 goals a season, that's big when I was growing up. 26 goals for club and country. By the way, he plays for Norway, and he's single-handedly dragging Norway to automatic qualification in the World Cup. And it's November. 13 Premier League goals. Today, I saw that. I think it changed because O'Reilly scored. Top scorers for City in the league was Haaland. Then it was a guy that scored 2 own goals. I forgot his name. Then all the rest on one. I think it was the Burnley player that scored 2 own goals. I don't remember his name. Do you know how mental that is? That's insane. And obviously Haaland did the robot celebration. He malfunctioned and he let us know that he's actually not a human being. But also his YouTube vlogs are just fascinating to see what he eats, what he gets up to. He's just a freak athlete, Haaland. He's a freak of an athlete. I mean, imagine you're a defender and you got to go up against this guy. How tall is he? He's like 6'4", 6'5". He's physically imposing. He's rapid with the ball, off the ball. He's so fast. He's powerful. He's tenacious. He's good in the air. He presses hard. Imagine being a defender going up against that. I mean, every time he's gone up against Arsenal, and they have the best defence in the world, Gabriel and Saliba, each one of them has tasted grass. They've become a cow. Literally, he turned them into a cow, into a vegan. They were eating grass. They fell. They got bodied every time. Haaland put them on the ground and was like, eat some grass. It's good for you. Eat the ground. Eat some of the earth. Eat some of God's green earth. I mean, this guy here is ridiculously insane. I mean, insane. And this here I found hilarious. Shirky celebrating when Haaland was 1-on-1. He laid him off with a header. He's really celebrating. He knows it's a goal. 1-on-1 with Haaland. I said at my TV when I was watching this, I was like, I saw him 1-on-1. 1,000,000% he's scoring. I can bet my life on it. Of course he scored. I mean, he's literally inevitable. He's like Ronaldo in 2017 in the Champions League. You just knew he was going to score in every single big game. Haaland is genuinely, it gets to the point where you know he's going to score. The only 2 games I think he didn't score in were Villa last week, and there was another game this season he didn't score in. Oh, I forgot. It's doing my head in. He hasn't scored in 2 Premier League games this whole season. Every game, you just know Haaland's going to score. I remember I was on the phone to my friend earlier. He was like, bro, I triple captained Haaland against Bournemouth. What do you think? Bournemouth is a tough game. They were second. I don't know if they still are second, but second in the Premier League. It's a tough game. I was like, bro, it's Haaland. 100% he's scoring 1 at least. 100%. Of course he gets a brace, of course. I mean, I genuinely believe this guy here is the best striker I've seen in the Premier League. In my lifetime, for sure. I don't know. This is almost like me speaking out loud because I want to know what other people think. Maybe I'm being reactionary. Because I think as football fans, it gets to the point where sometimes recency bias overshadows past success, let's say, and vice versa. Sometimes we put on a pedestal what was and the great players of our generation when we were growing up, and we don't really want to admit that maybe the modern day players could be better than the guys we loved. Someone for me like that is like Paul Pogba, for example. Probably 20 years down the line, there's probably going to be a midfielder that is better than Pogba. Because I grew up with Pogba, I'm going to be like, nah, you don't know how good Paul was. And that could be true. Pogba was very good, so it might be relevant in the argument. But at the same time, it's like, you got to appreciate what you see. And Haaland, he's been around for a while now. He's been around for a good 5... I mean, I think he really burst onto the scene 1920 season. So he's been around for a good 6 years. But a good 5 years, I would say, like, bagging goals. But I think we all saw it in 2020. And that Haaland and Mbappe debate was sort of overshadowed for a couple seasons. But more so Haaland went under the radar. Because Mbappe always got the love and respect he deserved. And I think Mbappe is better than Haaland, by the way. But I think Haaland was a little bit forgotten. Then the treble winning season happened. and he was like spoken about Ballon d'Or. Probably could have easily won the Ballon d'Or, but because the World Cup was involved, I'm not going to hate on Messi. And it's Messi at the end of the day. Whenever Messi wins a Ballon d'Or, you're like, you know what? It's Messi, fair enough. But I think he was a bit forgotten, and now we're starting to realise this guy here, this season, bro, top 3 player in the world, for sure. I think him and Mbappe, Kane have really been leading the lines for the next Ballon d'Or. Obviously, it depends on how successful each of the respective clubs are, because we know the Ballon d'Or comes down to Champions League, league success, also the World Cup. We mustn't forget the World Cup next year will play a big part. So if France win the World Cup, even if Haaland wins everything, that's going to Mbappe. There's no doubt about that. There's nothing he can do. And Norway won't win the World Cup, but still, if they can go on a decent little run in the World Cup, which I actually think they could potentially, little underdog charge, especially with Haaland at the helm, bro. Come on, man. What are we talking about? He could win the Ballon d'Or, and he 100% should have a Ballon d'Or by the end of his career, Haaland. Like, if he doesn't, it will be a travesty. It will be a joke. He's one of the best strikers I've seen. I'm really struggling. Like, when I started watching football, and also, another thing, people are going to be like, oh, Henry, you saw it. No, I didn't. I started watching football in, like, 2010. So when I say that I've seen consistently week in, week out, it's from that period onward, by the way. Obviously, I'm not saying Haaland is better than Henry. I've gone back to rewatch old games, lost tapes. That's why I talk about players that were before I was born. You know, Del Piero in the 90s, Zidane, these kind of guys. I've gone back to rewatch old stuff, and Henry's one of those guys, that I think people don't really probably put in the... I think some people do, but a lot of people kind of underestimate how good he was. But in terms of like 2010 onwards strikers, I'm saying, who's better than Haaland categorically? Lewandowski, Suarez, Ibrahimovic, Harry Kane maybe. But I don't know. Who else? Like Benzema. But I think Haaland can already chat to a lot of those guys. And I think he'll surpass every single one of them 1,000,000% by the end of his career. He'll surpass every single one. But I'm just sort of predicting the future. But for me, in the Premier League specifically, I think he's the best I've seen. He's the most ruthless I've seen. He's the most inevitable one I've seen. He's the most consistent finisher I've seen. He's kind of like Salah, but as a striker in the Premier League. Like, you know he's guaranteeing you X amount of goals each season. Like, he's fake, honestly. And if City have any chance of winning the league, it will be solely down to him, in my opinion. Because this City team is weak. Bro, for the City team standards that I've seen in my lifetime, especially in like the last 5 years, but let's call it since 22, when Haaland joined, this City team is the weakest one. You look at the team, it doesn't excite me. Like, if Juventus played City tomorrow, I don't think we'd win, but I wouldn't be worried too much. I'd be like, all right, City, yeah, we can give them a game. As long as we deal with Haaland, we could potentially give them a game. I don't know if that's disrespectful. I'm not thinking from a delusional point of view. I'm thinking from a confidence point of view, by the way. I'm not saying, yeah, we'll turn over City. Last season, we actually did beat City. But going into that game, I was a little bit nervous because despite the fact that City were on a bad run at that point, I was like, well, the personnel are stronger than they are now, in my opinion. But I'm digressing here, but what I'm trying to say is if I played the City team, not me, but Juventus played the City team, I wouldn't be as worried as if we played a City team in the treble winning season, or 23-24, or 20-21, or 19-20, or 18-19, or 17-18, or 21-22. You understand? I'm talking that period. This City team for me is a lot weaker than those years. But Haaland is like the shining light. Haaland is dragging them over the line. The only reason that they're in and around this position in the league is because of Erling Haaland. They got a lot of defects in this team, in my opinion. They obviously got great players like a Shirky there. O'Reilly's coming through. Foden, I'm a big Foden fan, but in the last few seasons he's sort of dropped off. But this year he's sort of finding his form. Doku's exploded, slowed down a little bit, which is frustrating because I've always backed Doku. Obviously Rodri's been injured, but he'll reintegrate himself. Diaz, Reins, they got good players. I'm not saying they don't. Donnarumma in goal, who had a horrible game today. The goal was his fault. But it's just not the same City team, in my opinion. But Haaland is really leading the line and dragging the City team. But for me, I've seen Haaland as the best striker in the Premier League. That I've seen since I started watching football consistently in like 2010 onwards. And I think even if you're a bit older than me and you saw the Henrys, you saw the guys in the 90s and the 2000s, you still have Haaland up there. If you say Henry's a better striker, fine. Rooney as well. Rooney, in his prime, crazy. But numerically, statistically, Haaland might be the best I've seen in the Premier League. I'm not going to lie. And I'm just saying this early on. He will statistically become that. I think he'll wipe the floor of Shearer's record. But let me know in the comments what you think, boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Erling Haaland, don't stop drinking the raw milk.